Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. Silver, hello. Laura, Mo, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? Whew. Hello, hello. Quiet day today. Oh, I just forgot to. Thoughts on the Georgia special election runoff? I mean, we knew it was gonna, so it was guaranteed to be a runoff. I just want to make that understood. I know Scott wrote some stuff about it in the Discord. It was guaranteed to be a runoff. There were 9 people running on the Republican side, and while there were technically 2 people running, I think on the Democrat, or 3 people running total, there was only one that was going to get most of the votes. So I'll be interested to see if any of the people that may have voted for a more centrist Republican in the first in yesterday decide to vote Democrat today, because the guy that won the Republican side is MAGA. Not as MAGA as the guy who got second, but still pretty MAGA. Hey Kia, hey Jeremiah. How's it going? I mean, we'll see. I wouldn't guarantee that, but we'll see. And the other question is how many will come back out to vote 4 weeks from now? That's the other unknown. I've been talking to quite a few people in Georgia, and Georgia is another one of those places where people are becoming disenfranchised with the Republican Party. So, kind of like every state, but you may be right, and they will, mostly because I don't know how like right or centrist the people that voted were, but we'll find out. Big Hegseth info spent 93 billion in September. Oh, I know, I saw that. It was one of those spend it before you lose it things. But yep, yeah, it's Gotta love, God bless America, right? Send the boys to battle with some surf and turf. Yep. Totally. That has to change. Well, there's a lot of things that have to change, Linda. That's one of them, for sure. He's got to have his eyeliner. Yep. Yep. Very important. One guy needs his eyeliner and the other woman needs her bed on an airplane. The wild world we live in. The wild world we live in. Morning, Summer. Trying to think what other interesting things came up. Oh, you mean other than Iran mining the strait, which isn't going to be good. Just your daughter called no school here today. Oh, why no school? Morning, Angel. Well, if the would have gotten rid of the minesweepers, we wouldn't have that issue. Well, they're trying to right now. Oh, wouldn't have gotten rid of the minesweepers. Yeah, well, there's a reason we don't poke that particular bear and use diplomacy. Yep. Tornado sirens went off last night. Ugh. It's going to be hot here today. It's going to be so freaking hot here today. We're looking at close to 90. And then it's going to be 60s and in the 30s overnight tomorrow. To keep all that surf and turf frozen, that's, you know, going to be a very long summer, isn't? No, I mean this is pretty normal for North Carolina. This is spring. Some really hots and then some colds and then some mids and then some hots and then some colds and then some mids. Yeah, this is pretty normal. I mean, 89 is a little hot for this time of year, but not by as much as you think. Last year's summer was very cool comparatively. That is true. It was 65 yesterday and we had a blizzard 2 weeks ago. Yeah. One of the coldest Augusts ever last year. We got tornadoes. It's going to be a long, yes, it is going to be a long season. Hey, Mr. Wallace. Hi, today is 35. Oh, man. It's just, I messaged Rosa. I try and I messaged Rosa asking how she was, and she asked how I was, and my response was, you know, going back and forth between, you know, screaming and wanting to curl up on the floor in a fetal position because of the way the world's going. We set records for how cool it was at the same average temperatures as Albany, New York. That is crazy. Your high is now 48. Already had tornadoes in Michigan. That's true. What's up, AJ? How does one get magenta crayon out of clothes? I had one go through the dryer. No. I do not have an answer to that. Hopefully somebody does. But I do not, unfortunately. Did you hear about the 200 a barrel of oil? Nope, don't know what you're talking about. So I've been seeing tons of reports of people that canceled health insurance. Yeah. What's up, Shawnee? Has it been confirmed that Iran has they are confirmed attempting to mine it. I had no confirmation on how many mines have been put down, but it is confirmed that they are attempting to. Iran wants it to go as high as 200 a barrel. I mean, that's not surprising. At least from what I have seen, it has been confirmed. That's why the US is going after the mining boats right now. And here's the big thing, Scott. If you were a ship and you heard that they were mining, even if they weren't, are you going to go through that? Are you going to go through the strait right now? I think we know the answer to that. We're going after, but said they have not mined the strait. I don't think they have like fully mined the strait, but my understanding is they have started doing it. That and maybe it's fake. Maybe the news that I'm reading is not real, but and it looks like cargo ships are getting hit in the Persian Gulf now too. So that's not good. 3 vessels hit. US escort is not ideal for a number of reasons. Yep. As of yesterday, intelligence reports indicate Iran has begun limited mining of the strait, with a few dozen mines laid. In response, the U.S. military reported destroying 16 mine-laying vessels to counter the threat. um... CNBC? Hey, meme. Or it actually looks like it was a CNN report. The CNBC report talked about a CNN report. Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important blah, 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 blah. According to two people familiar with U.S. intelligence reporting on the issue. So, I mean, Trump talked about it on Truth Social, so it must be happening. I didn't sleep all night after hearing about this. Yeah. Yeah, no ships are going through either way. Yep. In the end, all those ships need is to believe that there's even a possibility that they have, and that will stop them even more. Especially now that multiple have been hit that aren't even trying to pass through. Just getting more dangerous. So yeah, one ship was struck off of Oman, and two other were struck off the coast of Dubai and UAE. So, and these are cargo ships that were struck. So, and I'm looking at a picture of one with a giant hole in the side. Means that sucker ain't going anywhere. It's not good. It's not good. We don't know by what. Looks like IRGC or the IRG has said that they fired on a vessel in the waterway. So the one, at least that was in the strait, could have been by Iran. I'm not seeing anything about them saying that they attacked the other two. Either way, it's going to cause global chaos. Yup. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Iran, considering everywhere else they've attacked. Unless it's that other country that's just doing it to try and get everyone to go to war together. Whose cargo ships? I mean, I don't know whose supplies are in it, so it's tough to say. One of them was a Thailand flagged container ship. They don't say who owns the other vessels or what flag the other two were under. It's going to be one of those days when you wake up to ships fired upon and a dryer full of crayons. I heard one of the ships was bombed, caught fire, and everyone jumped ship. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a picture right now of one of them. Hold on. I can show you. Where are we? See that big hole? I'm going to be pissy today. Needs to go? I mean, the problem is nothing that we do is going to make that government go. That's the problem. Unfortunately, it has been shown multiple times that we cannot just walk in and do it. Yeah. It's not great. Oh, I know. But unfortunately, that one too. All of them. We just can't go in and change countries. Change leadership. We should stop giving them money, though. Polls suggest. I've heard differently, Johnny. I've heard quite differently that he doesn't have as much support as they're getting on. I would argue you can't change their regime even with boots on the ground, Scott. We failed at it in Afghanistan, and Iran is worse in my opinion. It would be harder in Iran than it would be in Afghanistan. Just because it's a bigger country. It would take at least 500K. Yeah. And again, you know, we know that Russia is no problem throwing literally millions of people into a battle. They couldn't take over Afghanistan. I don't know. Yeah, it just I don't trust that we have that I think we would just end up making more people against us, and I don't think it would happen. I think they'd just go into hiding and then come back. Kind of like the Taliban did. Oh, he's gonna say that already. What he's like, well, we actually already won, but we didn't win. Like he's his his for his news conferences, whatever they're called, are getting worse. Trying to be like, we've won, but we didn't win. We could leave at any time and it would be a win, but we're gonna be there longer. What's funny is the people that are still like supporting it. 10 different reasons for the war. That doesn't include the rest of his administration. Yep. I did not see the thread, Garpu. Yes, a lot of people are making guesses as to what's happening and what's going on. Yep. Yep. That's pretty normal. It's pretty normal. And yes, Dawn, there's a lot of propaganda going on from this administration. I mean, we can definitely condemn other countries, just not be spending our money and putting our people in danger and all the other things that we're doing because of somebody else's. Oh, I'm sure there are bets on the poly market about this. I am positive there are bets on the poly market about this. 100% positive. I wouldn't be surprised if the president makes decisions on things to say based on what his friends have bet in the poly market. If we're being honest. I'm still surprised that anyone believes what that man says after every time that man has lied in his entire career. It boggles the mind. It really does. It boggles the mind. I mean, to stay over to you, I might cause trouble on the other side. It's okay. I'd rather you guys stay over here. I'd rather everyone come over here. Wouldn't be surprised at the rate things are going that I'll end up only going live over here. Hey, Bobia. If TikTok keeps treating my content the way they're treating it. I'm about ready to be done. It's getting frustrating, Johnny. The frustrating thing for me is the inability to is getting filtered. Like, I went into Lewis's live and I said good evening. That's it. That's all I said, and it got filtered. I literally said good evening and it got filtered. Hey, Jenny. Although it seems like this might be the day. Wow. Hmm. You never know. Hey, Jazz. Or Chris. Or both. No. Practically just non-existent over there. I don't know if people just aren't talking. Good morning. Hey, OC. No, you're good. You're good, Summer. It's really okay. Morning, Jen. Like I said, I'd rather actually have more people over on the tube. We can have better conversations over here. I don't bring people up I don't know, Flower. Sorry. Aww. Goodbye. Yikes. Well. That was interesting. Hey, Rosa. Someone's got some big feelings this morning. Good is too judgmental, obviously. Then evening, like, why? There are time zones, dude. It's not evening everywhere. Do better. You're right. You're right, Mo. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did not mean to mess up like that. You're absolutely right. How dare I say good evening? Whew. It's just, I feel like it's, how's your week going? It's going well. It feels like no one was getting sick for a while and now everyone's starting to get sick. Especially colds. I've had quite a few people have to reschedule their interviews because of sickness. Did you see the people lose their life and now they're walking with no arms? No, I didn't see that. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. How's your week going? Reminded me to take my allergy meds. Yeah, I think that's the other thing. I think especially in certain areas where it's getting like sunny and warm, like allergies are like going ballistic right now. Like I know we got a pollen warning around here. Gas is up to 379 in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about the same, Shawnee. In fairness, they were really good crab legs. Dude, I was sick for 2 weeks. Apparently that flu is rough. There's one positive about working from home. They better have been really good crab legs for $2 billion. How many donuts and ice cream machines did they need? Obviously, the more donuts and ice cream machines you have, the more of a man you are, Rosa. I think everyone knows that. What's up, Shug? Truly is disgraceful that we spent our tax dollars on that. Yep. Are they going to do something about the waste of the 93 billion? Where's Doge? No, of course not. Of course not. Why would they? Why? Why? Why would they? I just saw the worst allergy cities were posted. That should be an impeachable offense. You know, Jordan, so many things that are going on should be an impeachable offense. That is definitely one of them. Spending 93 billion in a month. In a month. What do you mean bye-bye? They're still there. They already have a new one. Again, they I love how they think they've changed anything. Only the DOD is allowed waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah. Yeah. In a shock to absolutely no one, turns out our private tax data was stolen by Doge. Yeah, shocker. So shocking. Yeah, that's what they should have taken the 93 billion and done, is given it to the troops. That's what they should have done. Not spent it on crab legs. Fortunately, the DOD loves their use it or lose it policy. Yep. Or used it for something besides lobster and steaks. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. We're going to be 80 today, then 35 on Tuesday. Luckily, it's not going to stay. Yeah. It's going to be almost 90 here and then be in the 60s during the day and 30s at night. Can't pass an audit? Nah. They already haven't passed it for 8 years. Why start doing it now? Hey, Party Monster. Did you see the video of the man interviewed about Doge and his understanding of DEI? I feel like I saw a bit of it. Do the audits do anything? Not if the people that are responsible for holding them accountable for not passing it don't do anything. The auditors have no power. The auditors just give the data. It's Congress's job to hold them accountable. I pity the Democrats when they take back the House. So many investigations to hold. Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. They choose the auditors too. I don't know how that works. Were the inspectors general ever hired back? I don't think so. Gonna keep them busy for sure. Yeah. All about the decadence and the living in the moment for this administration. Yep. Use it or lose it needs to go. Yep. Totally agree. I think, especially for a government, like they should be happy that they didn't need to spend $93 billion. What do you think about the Georgia Senate race? It'll be interesting. With so much chaos, it's hard to keep track of everything. It really is, Kelly. How are you doing, my friend? But yeah, I mean, obviously he did good. The one thing to remember is there were a lot of Republicans running. That's what kept him his number so low. If everyone who voted in this primary comes back in a month and votes, it won't flip. If a lot less people show up because of disenfranchisement or something, especially on the Republican side, or people that are kind of centrist vote for the Democratic candidate because he is more centrist of a candidate. He's a brigadier general. It could flip. I think I'd be amazed if it flipped, but it could flip. It really all depends on the amount of people that show up, I think. Did you see they're saying deployment capability is in ICE contract with all their training? I did not see that. Yeah, it really depends on who shows back up to vote and who the people that didn't get their win, didn't get their person, decide to vote for. If we assume that identity politics is going strong there, then chances are nothing's going to change. I have been talking to people that are on the ground in Georgia, and they seem to think that a lot of people are tired of the Republican Party and this administration, and actually Trump backing someone is a detriment, interestingly enough. Now, is it enough of a detriment? Don't know yet. But Trump backing people is becoming more of a detriment every day, especially every time he does stupid things like go to war when he said no more wars. And things are great. be hilarious if they deployed ICE to fight in the war. It would be it it would be interesting. That's for sure. It would be interesting. Do I now? Okay. Wonder when the Democratic Party will announce president candidates. The Democratic Party doesn't announce presidential candidates. The candidates announce themselves. They already sent them on a world tour. True. Obviously, you've forgotten what happened in September a few years ago. What do you think happened in September a few years ago? Obviously, Shug. Obviously, I'm failing miserably. Obviously, none of you seem to care about what's been going on in all the other countries where citizens have been unalived. Why are we involved in this one? Religious fanatics blew up our financial center. Uh, we are. We really are, Kia. Yeah, religious fanatics blew up and took the lives of hundreds of kids in Iran. Could you imagine living in fear of the morale police? No, no, it won't. Nope. And I'm not living in fear of any morale police. I just have morals. The only people that should that are living in fear of the morale police are people that lack morals. And I have every right to talk about someone and against someone who lacks morals. All right, community people can come up.
Hi.
Hello.
Guess what I did this morning?
Uh-oh. What did you do?
I shared my Genie in the Bottle song with Bex and them.
Of course you did.
I had to spread the love. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hi, Scott.
Good morning. Good morning, Kia. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, chat.
Morning, April. It was so great.
For the record, the people who went into our buildings were Sunnis and not Shia. Iran is Shia. So before you try and draw comparisons, you should learn something about history.
Michael, you have no idea who I am. You literally have no idea who I am.
Michael, you've made nothing but one wrong statement after another, showing your ignorance.
Hey, Jinx.
I did have another song though for the flower that got booted. I was asking if anybody had ever heard this song by Andre 3000 called Roses. And the chorus is like, I know you like to think yo ish don't stink, but if you lean a little bit closer, then you'll see that roses really smell like boo boo boo.
And you're
and it was so perfect.
and you're right, Garpu. They wouldn't know the difference between a Sunni and a Shia from a hole in the ground. Nope.
No, they wouldn't.
All they see is color of skin.
Yep, they do not understand the difference between Sunnis like in Saudi Arabia or Shia like in Iran.
Yep.
Horse of a different color, and 9/11 had nothing to do with Shias, that's for sure.
Yep. Your retired intelligence. Just tell them that, oh, you know what? This is the thing, Jinx. So if we're all about conversation here, and if they are rude, they do just go bye-bye. But also, I appreciate the fact that they're helping my algorithm. Any talking helps my algorithm. I think it's hilarious that they come in thinking they know anything. So we're good.
And besides, that's not a baseball cap you're wearing.
True. They just, it all looks the same. It's got a lip and it's got a top. It means it's a baseball cap. I would love to see.
There were a lot of questions about the elections last night. The Democrats overperformed, not by a lot in the district, by about 9 points, but 9 points ain't nothing. That's still pretty good. But it's important everybody's thinking that the seat is going to flip because the Democrat won by a couple of points. There were like 9 Republicans running.
Yep.
And he was the only Democrat who got above 1%. The total amount for Democrats last night was 38.2%. The total amount for Republicans was 61.6%. This is a deep red district. I mean, anything can happen, but I would be very surprised if this district flips.
Yep.
And more importantly, the Democrats have 435 races to run. They can put their money in better chances than this district.
Thank you,
and in
Lisa.
Mississippi, it went about as I expected. Nobody was going to beat Bernie, and I was surprised, though, at the size of his victory. 82% in a anti-incumbent era that we're in now is rather impressive for Bernie Thompson.
Yeah, I feel bad.
He won by a absolute 82%. That's monstrous.
Now, that being said, the actual number of people that came out and voted was non-existent. The turnout was wretched in Mississippi.
Yeah, but you can't have it both ways. You don't, the turnout is the turnout. You judge a candidate by how much they can't help that. They can only help by getting percent of the votes, and he did quite well. And I mean, he was going to win anyway, but I thought it would be a little bit closer than that because we have, we're in an era now for both Democrats and Republicans. We're in an era of very anti-incumbent bias, and
which is why
I was surprised at the size of his victory. I mean, he won by 70 points.
Which is why you're seeing incumbents leave all over the place. There is the news that the Montana senator decided not to run for re-election.
Senator Daines, but that was a little slimy move. He did it a couple hours before the filing deadline, and I saw a bunch of people on on maybe it was Pac-Man's thing. Oh, this opens the door for Tester to come in. How? He has the same filing deadline.
So
it's too late.
So here's what I heard, and I haven't looked into it. I was reading some stuff on it. So there's a guy who came in as an independent, who Tester has been trying, was telling to run, and to run as an independent. So this person is Tester's, the guy who's running as an independent is Tester's pick. And we already know Montana, Nebraska, all those ones are much more open to the idea of an independent running than a Democrat at this point. So
yeah. I mean, Montana's a tough pickup anyway. I mean, the only Democrat, I think, or even independent, the only other person besides a Republican who could win in Montana would be Tester, in my opinion. And yeah, we're going to find out. But he did that deliberately to keep Tester from jumping in. He did it an hour before the deadline. And what's interesting, in the last election cycle, Daines was the Republican frontman for the senatorial campaign. Mm-hmm. And now he's quitting. He was the head guy in the Republican senatorial campaign committee. And now he's quitting. He quit an hour before, or whatever it was, of the filing deadline.
He was considered the up and comer, like, possibility of being the next majority leader and all that stuff. He was pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of, if you're to name the top 5 most important senators of either party, he's on that list. And for him to quit like that was a shocker. He's not old either. That was very surprising. Well, obviously, I'm not alone. It took everybody by surprise.
Yep. And unfortunately, this whole pulling out at the last minute and having someone else jump in is not new for this year. It happened one other time before this in Illinois. And it's just going to be a wild year, guys.
But in Illinois, you're used to, Illinois is a lot like my state, New Jersey. You're used to sleazy moves in those states. Montana has a little bit of a different reputation where they're a little bit more straightforward. And it's just very surprising the way that Daines did it. I'm disappointed. And by the way, he also hurt his own party because he doesn't allow a free and fair election to pick his successor on the Republican side. So it's not as if he did his own party any favors either by doing that.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the Republican Party that are pissed off that he did that. Which, again, has the potential of helping. Will it help long term? 8 months from now? Who knows? But
I have a question. So, being that we know, so I didn't really follow anything with the election thing in Georgia. It was a special runoff, and it was it was a special election, and the person who won yesterday took the seat, or
because in Georgia you have to get 50% or you do a runoff. So
yeah, there will be a runoff between the Democrat and Republicans. So the statistics I gave you were, I added up all the Republican votes and I added up all the Democratic votes. And the Democrats got 38.2% of the total vote. The Republicans got 61.6% of the total votes. So does that mean the Democrat can't win? No, of course not. The Democrat can win, but it's going to be a very different. It would be a huge upset if the Democrat wins.
It will all depend on who decides to come and vote for another election 1 month later, and if Democrats can get more to come out and vote in that than before, that can change everything. If Republicans feel disenfranchised, especially the ones that wanted one of the other 9, that could change it too. So it's really an unknown. It's definitely, it would be a massive win No doubt.
It would be a massive win and a massive upset because all the Republican candidates were hard right, and I just don't see them, no matter how disappointed they are by who won the Democratic primary, who the Democrat was. I just don't see them voting for a Democrat. I mean, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. This is nut job central. This district, and she won at what, 70-30?
I foresee you're getting more. You have a better chance of people just not voting, not going to vote again, just at all.
Correct. That's the issue. The issue will be not them all of a sudden saying I'm going to support a Democrat. It would be them just saying this sucks, I'm staying home.
Yep.
That would be the issue. And will it be closer than Marjorie Taylor Greene's win? Sure, but all the Democrats are outperforming everywhere. So the flip, that would be a very big surprise if it's a flip.
Yep. And Georgia's doing a lot of work to get Democrats out there in every seat. I actually just interviewed an organization who basically is not associated with the Democratic Party per se, but its goal is to make sure that no Republican ever runs unopposed in any seat, state or federal, in Georgia. And I think this year there's only 22 state seats that are no Democrat is running against, which is huge for that state compared to it was like 100 4 years ago that ran unopposed. So there's a lot of changes going on a lot of places. Like that's not a new thing.
Well, and you also have a lot of open seats with the incumbents dropping out. You have a huge amount. Obviously, a lot more Republicans are dropping out than Democrats, but you have a huge amount of Republicans who have dropped out and are not going to seek re-election. They can see the handwriting on the wall. And, higher gas prices, that's certainly not going to help. Even if gas prices go down and whatever this war is over, do I think the war will be a big factor in the election? No, I don't. But I think it's a subsidiary effect of the war will just be this guy's incompetent. We spent 2 weeks, a month, however long we're going to spend there, bombing a lot of stuff. And what did we get out of it? We replaced a 86-year-old religious fanatic with his son, a 56-year-old religious fanatic, sort of like Venezuela. We took out the head there, and we left the same regime in place.
Yep.
And that's why you don't hear anybody. You don't hear Hegseth. You don't hear Rubio, and you may hear Trump because he gives a different reason every 5 minutes, but nobody's talking about regime change anymore because it's sort of obvious that there's not going to be regime change.
And now Cuba. I mean, we already know that this administration loves to talk. He will say and do anything and then forget about it, a week later. Notice we're not hearing a word about Greenland anymore.
Yeah, this week. Who knows next week?
Exactly.
I mean, folks, here, this really, oh my God, it's a war. This is so shocking. There's nothing shocking about any of this, unfortunately. There's nothing shocking about. This guy is so incompetent. It's literally unbelievable. He knew that he wanted to take us into war and didn't do anything to get Americans out of harm's way. In every other war, you have airplanes flying in and taking Americans out. He is seemingly shocked that the Straits of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows, is effectively closed down. He's shocked by that. How possibly can he be shocked by that? He talks about sending U.S. ships in to escort them. To begin with, we don't have enough ships to escort every tanker through the Gulf. And secondly, if we were to do that, that brings them within range of Iran's short-range ordnance, which poses a grave risk to any ship of war that we would send in there to perform ridiculous escort duty. There are no easy ways out of this. The only easy way out of it is to end the war. And we really should pay attention to the fact it's not just oil. Everything we eat, everything we buy. I just had a washer and dryer delivered to my home yesterday. That was transported. I didn't walk it back from Home Depot. That was transported. That costs money. When the price of oil goes up, that cost is passed down into everything you buy. And even through the Straits of Hormuz, copper, cobalt, fertilizer, a ton of fertilizer goes through the Straits of Hormuz. That's increasing food costs because less food is going to be able to be produced. And when there's less food, the price goes up.
Yep. And for anyone wondering why oil went down as much as it did, because people are betting that this administration is going to taco. They got nervous. They heard him say something, and now they think they are betting on him tacoing. That's what they're betting on. If after like a week or two, nothing really changes or it gets worse, you're going to see it skyrocket again.
What's the taco thing again? Please remind me. I'm sorry.
Trump always chickens out.
I thought that was what it was, but it was feeling a little fuzzy, tickling the back of my brain. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we already know his polling is horrific. It's about to get worse because the American people, there's certain things you can fool the American people on. I'm being nice. Just about everything you can fool the American people on. But the costs of things, you can't fool them on. You can't fool them on what it costs to buy a pound of ground beef. You can't fool them on what it costs to fill up your tank. And when it comes to gas prices specifically, when they rise, the American people have a belief, and this crosses party lines, that we have a God-given right to cheap gasoline. We just have that belief, and we've had that. There's nothing new about that. Since the invention of the automobile, we've always wanted cheap gasoline. And this is going to hurt. So I think when the next round of polling comes out, I think Trump will taco. He'll declare victory and go home. At least I hope that's what he does. Let him declare victory. I don't care what he does. Just end this stupidity.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not going to get regime change, what the hell are we doing over there? And we're not going to get regime change.
Nope.
You know, ballistic missiles, we've taken out about 90% of their launchers, probably more by now. That was Sunday's statistic. But they can always rebuild ballistic missiles, and they have in the past. When the I country took them out, they took quite a beating, but they rebuilt them very quickly, and they will this time. And let me ask you a question. We have a new leader in Iran. If I were the new leader in Iran, I would not re-engage in talks about nuclear weapons. I would be running, not walking, running to develop one now. The only way he can guarantee his long-term safety is to do what Kim Il-sung did in North Korea. Get yourself a nuke and nobody fucks with you. And in the Middle East, who didn't build nukes? Gaddafi. That's the end of him. Saddam, that was the end of him. Nations that don't have them get attacked.
This administration and what it has done is going to cause probably the largest race for countries to create their own nuclear arsenal that we've seen ever, because that's the only thing that's going to keep this administration from doing anything.
The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is toast. I mean, and it's not just countries that hate the United States. countries like they're talking about it in Japan, of all countries. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they're talking about it. Taiwan is talking about it. South Korea is talking about it. You better believe Ukraine is talking about it. They've already taken Trump's measure. They know the United States is a fair weather friend. They are helping us out. $1 trillion a year going up to $1.5 trillion on a defense budget, and we can't build anti-drone warfare. We have to call in Ukraine to bail us out. And while we do that, we take the oil sanctions off of Russia. That's how we pay them back, so that Vladimir Putin can make more money. I don't know what the hell Putin has on Trump, but it's got to be pretty bad.
And Stephanie, thoughts on Condoleezza Rice and Trump talking? I don't have any thoughts on it, if I'm being honest. According to everything I'm seeing on it, basically it had to do with, I don't know. I don't know much about it other than she went into the White House.
If he's talking with Condi Rice, that's got to be a good thing, because Condi Rice has forgotten more about foreign policy in the last 5 minutes than anybody in the Trump administration put together and multiplied by 100 knows about foreign policy.
According to an interview she did on Fox News, the only statement that I'm seeing she said is, if you can render Iran essentially incapable of military action against us and our allies, that's worthy.
I would say that part of the thing is like what you guys were talking about, the fact that certain people think that they get to decide who gets to have the nukes and the capability to protect themselves and those who don't. And as was just stated, all of those that didn't, look what happened to them. I just think especially for a country where everybody's screaming about their Second Amendment and the right to protect themselves, that they think it's completely unheard of in their brains for another country and their citizens to be able to do the exact same thing is part of it. I just think there goes that Americanacity again. But I think part of the other issue is it's not just the person that's at the top that doesn't know what they're doing. They're surrounded by incompetence as well, and that just makes it even worse. Like with the thing with the mining in the strait, dude decommissioned the rest of the demining things that we had last year. He did this last year. If this threat was so imminent, not only did you lie like in June or whatever it was last year when you said you got rid of all their capabilities? How is it not even a year later and now all of a sudden they're that capable? And it just doesn't make sense.
Look, the spread of nukes is an unalloyed bad thing, period. No matter where it spreads. Having Iran with a nuclear weapon is a nightmare. That is why Obama negotiated that treaty. Was that treaty perfect? No, it wasn't perfect. But they allowed international inspection, and there were no violations of that treaty when Trump took us out of that treaty. We've had nothing but problems since. I stated before in June, Iran cannot be allowed to build a nuclear weapon. They can't. They are a terroristic regime. However, bombing their ballistic missile sites and even hitting them again on their nuclear sites at best only slows them up and fills them with a resolve to build the weapons. That's why I don't understand why we went to war while negotiations were still taking place. And of all the subjects that were being negotiated, the nuclear issue was the one that we were having the most progress on. This entire war from start to finish doesn't make any sense. And let's say we pull out after blowing up a few more ballistic missile sites. What does that gain us? What have we gained? I don't, please tell us what the end game is and what the goal is. Has the president made a single speech to the American people explaining why we're at war? Has he made a speech telling us what the goals of that war are? Has he made a speech telling us what the end game is? No. The answer is no to all of those things. Please name any other war any president has taken us into where he has not done that. In every war I can remember, the president has addressed the American people and told us why we are doing it, what our goals are, and what we hope to achieve. Not in this case. He hasn't even gone to Congress. He's asking for help from our allies as he kept them in the dark and spent a year pissing all over our allies. What a shock. They're not helping us.
And now he's trying to piss on them even more because they're like, we're not going to help you with something that you never really talked to us about.
Yeah. I mean, war is a serious business for a very simple reason. It is very easy to start and it is very hard to get out of. We should have learned that in Vietnam. We should have learned that in Korea. We should have learned that in the second Gulf War against Iraq. And we should have learned that in Afghanistan. Apparently, we didn't learn that, or at least this man didn't learn that. And secondly, wars, Clausewitz, the geohistorian, hundreds of years ago, spoke about the fog of war. And that is exactly what happens. When a war starts, you have plans. And the second that the first pew-pew is fired, those plans go out the goddamn window because things on the ground change. Mm-hmm. We never anticipated Iran launching ballistic missiles at our allies in the Persian Gulf. Well, I don't know why we didn't think of that. We should have. We didn't think of getting our people out of there. I don't know why we didn't think of that. We should have. And this hilariousness of the Straits of Hormuz being closed, well, duh. Any idiot could have seen that was going to happen. And yet we're on our back foot here, not understanding why these things are happening. I don't know who the hell is running the State Department and Defense Department, but somebody should have had a prediction of this, or maybe they did tell Trump and he just paid no attention to it.
I guarantee all of us here know more than this administration. The professional generals are not doing these things. The professional generals are the ones that were made to leave and forced out.
I still think, and I get everything that you're saying, Scott. I just stand by the fact we're the only ones that have ever used them, period. Just like we're the only ones that have ever called on NATO to help us, period. And we have been absolutely shitty for hundreds of years. I still just think it's mighty rich. And I don't know if the sarcasm is coming through on that rich, that we still think that we get to decide. I think both things are true. I don't think we should have them either. And I think especially with the fact of how fast we can talk as much shit as we want to about everybody other's governments and how terroristic they are and all this and that. The fact that we actively chose to vote in somebody that we already knew all of the bad shit that they had already done after already having one chance, the fact that we did that again, we actively, people actively in a democratic way did it, they went and voted for this shit again, that should show everybody that we're not that much better because we were willing to walk right back into it knowing exactly what was happening, what was coming on. P2025 laid it all out. People still went out and voted, and I think both things should be true. We should not be, by what standards should we ever have been held as the world's police? We are not better than anybody. That's where that Americanacity comes in. And I hate the fact that we just still feel like we deserve that right, like it's some kind of right of ours to do it, because we are not. On so many levels, yes, I get it. There is a lot of things, and I'm not talking about minutia, where we are better. We have things that are better here than other places, and they have vice versa. And I get it. There are places where the government is actively unaliving people in a way that's different, that's not here. That just doesn't. There's just a lot of this, especially as we stand right now, as we keep talking about, we have in 1 year destroyed 80 years worth of building relationships within this whole planet that is full of other countries that have their own leaders, their own governments, and the own way that they do things. And we actively voted for somebody who we saw the plan. We kept talking about it. We kept talking about it to everybody. We saw the plan and it still happened. Like, why would other countries or why would anybody else on the outside ever trust us again or think that we're high enough on our high horse that we should even be able at the head of all of these tables?
The international system was created in 1945 by the United States. It was called the Rules-Based Order. It was a reaction to the horrors of the Second World War, in which anywhere 60 and 80 million. It was a good order, and it benefited us greatly, and has had peace between the major powers for 80 years. And now we have torn that apart for no good reason at all. You know, look, this guy was incompetent before he became president in every business he ran. He won in 2016. His administration was a dumpster fire. He had COVID, and then he tried to overthrow the government of the United States on January 6th, and we reelected him. So the fault is not in the stars, my friend. The fault is in ourselves. Not the people here, but the fault is in ourselves. And I don't see what we gain by tearing apart both our economic and political alliances and replacing them with what exactly? Nothing that has been articulated yet. We are replacing it with nothing. And major powers don't thrive well in chaos. That is what we have created. We have done this.
Bond, I got a warning for muting someone. Oh, good. Oh, I
What?
just blocked him, so.
How can a mod get a? What I don't know anything about this stuff, but how can doesn't a mod have complete authority to mute anybody they want for any reason they want, good, bad, or otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What the fuck is with this app? Fuck this app.
You know what he probably did? He probably reported her comment or something like that as bullying and harassment. I bet you is what happened. And then she blocked him. Or she muted him, and that's probably exactly what happened. That's why I don't let them sit and play. I know some people like to sit and play with the crazies. I don't, because that's what they do, and that's harmful.
Had to move over to the tube. Something's going on. Yes. I mean, something is always going on. And there's reporting that Oracle is going to be laying off thousands of people. So that can only make things better.
Jennifer, there's a lot of stuff that's changing, just like with what the current situation is over on the other side of the world. They when they updated stuff, they literally said that from day to day, depending on what's happening, they can decide what's okay or not. That's why I say we don't say the I country period, because yes, some people say it and get away with it. Some people say it and they're gone 30 seconds later. We have to be really careful.
Yep. Lewis, I mean, I went into your live, I don't know, 2 days ago, and I said, good evening. That got filtered. Good evening. Nothing else. No emotes, no anything else. That's all I wrote, and it got filtered.
You know, I just don't think people realize that they keep talking about the price of gas. They don't realize the economic downstream of all this. They don't realize that with the price of oil expanding, that this is going to cause tremendous inflationary pressure, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And we're running a risk of throwing the world into a recession here. This is very dangerous stuff. And it makes it even more dangerous is the fact that we have not articulated any type of end game, any set of goals. Can anybody tell us what the goals of this military action are? I can't. They change by the hour. They change by who's ever speaking.
Yep.
And one thing's for sure, our belief that the Iranian regime was going to collapse like a house of cards the second that the ordinance was used on them was a fallacy. They have not.
Yep. Mr. Global, I've made a video that said 3 weeks. Basically, the world can survive 3 weeks with the strait being closed before a global recession would happen. Complete crash. And he said that if by 3 weeks it doesn't happen, you will see ships from every major nation go to the strait to open it up. But you're already seeing repercussions worldwide for it. I saw that, I think it was one of the Southeast Asian countries is looking about going to 4 days a week, 4-day work week, and encouraging people to carpool as much as possible to reduce gas usage in the country.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And not that this makes us feel any better, because we're feeling pain here ourselves. Just go fill up your car and you'll find out what pain feels like. But the Europeans and our friends in the Pacific are paying a much heavier price because they don't have much domestic production. So they have nothing to buffer what's going on. And all this talk of, well, we'll release from the strategic reserve, that buys you a little bit for only a little bit of time. You cannot cut off 20% of the world's flow of oil and make that up by releasing oil from your strategic reserve. There's just not enough to do that. And it can't be done fast enough, and it can't be done by enough barrels per day.
Oil and natural gas.
Yeah, and let's not forget that 20% of the world's liquefied national gas comes from Qatar.
Yep.
Or Qatar, however you want to pronounce it. And they have completely shut down because they were attacked, and they've completely shut down production. Now that brings up a host of problems as well. And as I said before, the Straits of Hormuz are not just for oil. They're not just for oil. The Straits of Hormuz are for fertilizer, copper, cobalt, all sorts of essential materials. And we cannot sustain a long shutdown. And saying that we're going to have American warships escort every single ship that goes through the Straits of Hormuz is not practical.
Mm-hmm.
It's not practical. We don't have enough Navy to do that.
Oh, and by the way, just in case anyone was wondering, this administration, I know it's going to shock everyone, did not refill the strategic reserve. It is still at 60%. So if we release more, they did not destroy all of them. They destroyed 13, which according to estimates, but our domestic production is how much? That doesn't matter.
About 12.5 million barrels a day, to answer your question. However,
oil is a global commodity.
Is a fungible worldwide commodity. The price is based on the worldwide availability of oil, not how much any individual country produces.
We ship oil across the world. And if 20% goes down, that means there is less supply for the world, which means prices go up. The second we opened domestic supply to the world, we put all of our oil on the same market as everyone else. It doesn't matter how much we make here. It is a global market.
Yeah, oil's fungible, folks. It is a worldwide fungible product. Mr. Global explained it the best way to put it so that the rest of us can understand it. He said, think of a bathtub that gets filled with oil, and then you take some out every day, and then you refill it every day. If you're cutting it back by 20%, what you take out is going to be more than what you put in, and that means the rest of that oil goes up in price.
Not to mention, in order to try and keep it from going up too much, there is now talk of the world, like all of the major oil nations releasing their strategic supplies, which is going to severely decrease the storage, the amount of oil that the world stores, which at some point they're also going to have to fill back up, which is also going to cause supply problems. This is not something that is going to be fixed easy. The fact is all of those countries in the Persian Gulf, they're not drilling for more oil, because they have nowhere to put the oil that they're drilling right now, because normally those would go in tankers and go away and new ones would come and they'd fill those up. So nothing is happening there now.
Yep, storage tanks are pretty full in the Middle East because they're not offloading their oil because they can't get it through the Straits of Hormuz. So tankers are just sitting still. Tankers are not being emptied and then being replaced and then filling up. It's called a supply, and we're interfering with the supply chain. If the war ended tomorrow, we're still going to have difficulty for a few months.
And all it takes is one of their probably tens of thousands of drones to get through to destroy all of their stored oil, which means they won't have anywhere else to store oil, which will make it even worse.
Well, the attack that was launched on Iranian stored oil, which happened first, the Iranians had not attacked stored oil in other countries, was very foolish for just that reason, because they will retaliate. Mm-hmm. And they have retaliated. They've already retaliated. That was foolish.
Someone came in saying that Iran is now saying that they want to push oil to 200 a barrel, which wouldn't surprise me at this point.
I don't know. The longer it goes on, the more supply chains are disrupted and the longer it will take to fix those supply chains. And you're quite right. The G7, if they open up their oil reserves, that will help a little bit, but it doesn't replace what we're not getting, and it sets us up for a problem down the road, because you're going to have to refill those strategic reserves, which will raise the price of oil because you're purchasing more. It's a Hobson's choice. And what is the only thing that we've done? The only thing that we've done, another thought is to suspend the gas tax of 16.2 cents, I believe it is, a gallon, the federal gas tax. Well, that's nice and all that. That's just a drop in the bucket, too, and that causes the deficit to rise. But the only thing we have done is take sanctions off of Russia. Now, there's the dumbest idea in the world. The only good thing we've done to put pressure on Russia was to put sanctions on them, and we're taking sanctions off of Russian oil. Once again, I don't know what Putin has on Trump, but this is really ridiculous.
Yep. It's pretty wild. 400 million barrels will be released. Yep, and that won't last very long in the world. That won't last very long in the world.
I think that's the part that people keep forgetting, is it's the world, as in the entire world, not just the made up borders of the United States. It's the entire world.
Yeah, the world consumes over 100 million barrels of oil per day. Now, obviously, we're only cutting 20%, but that's still
We didn't have 20% in excess capacity, so it's going to bite and bite hard.
But I will say, like, it talking, it's like the gas went up from like, it was like 252 here, what, a week ago, 10 days ago or something, and now it's like 329. But like, I get my gas at Dollar General, so I get like 3 cents off. And then it's like all the here we go with my favorite word again, intersectionality. The fact, like Wendy was saying, on the other side, the transportation costs, and that's going to be affecting so many things because the truck drivers and everybody, there's like a whole trickle down effect with that. That's a real trickle down effect right there.
Well, sure, because diesel has gone up more than the gas that we're buying.
Mm-hmm.
Diesel's gone up even more. It's literally everything. Yeah, look, the cost of petroleum affects everything. The cost of petroleum affects fertilizer, folks. Fertilizer. Without that, you don't get food.
Yep.
It affects literally everything. Everything you buy from Amazon. How do you think it gets to your door? They don't walk it. It gets to your door vis-a-vis transportation. Everything is affected by this. Everything.
Is opening another harbor. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as if no oil will flow, but again, what does flow is going to be a lot more expensive.
Yep.
And that affects our overall inflation rate. As a matter of fact, I guess it was Chase the other day has raised their expectation for inflation in 2026 to 4.5%, which, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home, is double what it was when Joe Biden left the Oval Office. And as long as we're on statistics, Joe Biden in his last year produced 2.23 million jobs. From March to March of this year, again, according to Trump's own Department of Labor, we only created 487,000 jobs, about 1/5 of what Biden did in his last year. And all of those jobs were created in the first 2 months of the Trump administration. Since then, we've been flat.
Yep.
But Scott, what about Biden?
Yeah, the price of eggs did go down. So you got that. I mean, you lost your health insurance, you lost your SNAP, you've lost your jobs.
But at least you're
Inflation is going to be double what it was. Healthcare, according to AFF, if you have a private, if you get it through your employer, you went up 26% this year. If you get it off the ACA, you went up 150%. I don't need to tell everybody what's happened to our utility bills, but there's a silver lining here, you Trumpers. You did get tax cuts for billionaires. Congratulations. That you accomplished.
And we're spending $2 a week less on eggs. A week. Because I don't know about you, but we're like two weeks. Every 2 weeks, maybe we get a new thing of eggs. No, Trump had nothing to do with the prices of eggs going down, but now he's talking about it.
Well, in the State of the Union address, he was talking about gas prices. Haven't heard him mention that again.
No, now he's just saying, this is just temporary. I knew this was going to happen. Hey, Tiffany. Oh, yeah, the way they're trying to justify this is wild.
There is no justification. I can understand if you get them to give up their nukes and give up their ballistic missiles. That is a goal and that is an achievement. But they haven't done any of that. They're not even talking with them. We haven't outlined what our end game is. We haven't said what our goals are in this war. That's insane. How can you go to war without any goals?
Yes, Rock. We know the Saudi Arabia has a pipe that goes all the way from basically from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, and they are able to, and they are diverting what they were sending over there to the Red Sea. We know. It's been talked about for a while. It's not going to really fix a whole hell of a lot.
It does help, but still 20% of the world's oil still goes through the Straits of Hormuz. Now, should the world have found different transit points over the last 30 years? Hell yes, they should have, but they didn't. So here we are.
Well, and I don't really blame Iran for not wanting to come back to the table at this point. They've come to the table twice, and both times in the middle of negotiations when things finally seemed like they were going well, they were attacked by the United States. So in all honesty, I can't blame them for not coming back a third time. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And fool me a third time, I'm just a fool. So I don't blame them at this point for being skeptical and not wanting to come back to the table. He really messed up on this one, and I'm not sure how and if this could ever be fixed, honestly.
Well, I think the way he'll fix it is to claim that he won and go home, especially if he drops another 5 points in the polls and the stock market loses another 2,000 points and gas goes up over $4 a gallon, which, unless something crazy happens, is definitely going to happen. Even if oil stays at at least according to Mr. Global, if oil stays in the $90 to $92 a barrel price, which it probably won't, it'll probably go higher. But if it stays there, that's still $4 a gallon. And once you hit that $4, I'd hate to be running as a Republican for Congress. I'd already hate it. They have a bad enough forecast. It's going to get a whole lot worse.
Yep.
And the sad part is, all of this mess is actually helping the premier of my province, who's been we don't even need to go there, but they were forecasted a huge deficit this year because oil prices had been down. And now all of her base who don't know how to read books are all going to think she just magically saved the whole province, even though it has everything to do with all of this going on in Iran and nothing to do with her doing anything at all other than pure dumb luck on her part. It's, oh my God, I don't even want to. I'm sort of at the point where I can't even anymore. I'm like, can we just make it a law that people have to read a certain number of books every single year? Because I feel like that would definitely change the world in a positive direction. It's not going to hurt anyone.
Well, good luck with that, Tiffany, getting people to read again.
Good luck. You can just, I'm not even that mean. We could even just make it audible so that they don't actually even have to read it. They can just listen to it. I'm okay with that.
Force them to read because that trains their mind. But
this is true.
That's not going to happen. So
I'm even willing to negotiate and say I'm okay with audible. I prefer books, but I'm okay with audible as long as you're learning something in some fashion and not. It's just, oh my gosh, I can't even anymore with certain discussions because it's just too much. Over on Facebook, people are like, measles is no big deal. I'm like, really? They had near zero unalivings from measles before vaccines. I'm like, are you for real? Have you ever read anything in your life? I'm even okay if it was just green eggs and ham. There's no judgment here. Have you read anything? How are you reading what I'm saying right now? How are you even, I can't. I'm like, how are people just so lost the plot that they can't even just go look something up? We literally hold a device in our hand that has access to as much information as humanity has ever had access to at any time point in history. And we're literally watching people just become so intellectually deficient. I don't understand what's going on. It's baffling my mind right now. And because of it, we're having stuff like what is happening around the world. And it's all over the place. There was another floor crossing in Canada, so it's expected that within the next month or so, Canada, the Carney government will have a majority government here in Canada. they will win their next 2 seats. We have 3 by-elections going on right now, 2 of which are Liberal strongholds. One person from the NDP party has now defected to across the floor to the Liberals. So the Conservatives here in Canada are big feeling mad right now because Pierre's not going to get to be prime minister, and they're having big feelings about it. So
DDC, you're fine. We have said before a million times that we need to talk about the reality, even if it sucks. Like, even if what we're talking about is not fun and is awkward and is painful and all the other stuff. Like, I completely understand people being pessimistic at this point in time. It's not fun what we're living through right now and what we're going through. In the end, the hard part is going to be making sure people don't just put their heads in the sand because they can't take it anymore. That is the problem that we have. Because there's just so much going on all the time.
Yeah, yes, Laura, this timeline sucks. This timeline sucks a lot. But here we are. So,
yep.
One foot in front of the other. Each day that the sun comes up, that's another day closer to the midterms. Once the midterms are over, it's another day closer to the end of this nightmare. I mean, that I realize how unsatisfying an answer that is, but it's where we are.
And we also realize how much we don't know what the future is actually going to hold on any front. But in the end, they will happen. The only thing that we can control is what we can control right now. And what we can control right now is our ability to talk to each other, make sure we're informed, and vote. That is what we can control. You tired, JC? Maybe you should go take a nap.
Well, and I think it's important right now more than ever to build community so that we have people who we can share hope with, especially on the days when things feel lost and we are starting to begin to feel hopeless. That's when we need to lean on our community so they can give us the hope that we maybe are failing to feel and see right now. Because I think the worst thing that can happen is that people start feeling hopeless, and you're right, then put their head in the sand and just like feel like there's nowhere to go. We are on the precipice, people. We've got this. That's why Mike built this beautiful community for all of us. It's true, Mike. It really is true. As a space to come, even on days when it seems darker than others. I've come here like that because, we've had our own stuff going on in Canada that's been... We have our own challenging people here, we'll put it that way. Yeah. Like there's pictures that surfaced of Alberta separatists in Mexico and Florida setting up shop to get signatures to separate the province from Alberta, and I'm like, oh my God, why are embarrassing people traveling? You're embarrassing us. Stop it. Just please stop.
Yeah, have them call me. I'll tell them to stop it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because we're after all, in a few weeks, once we're out of here, you guys are what's
Governor Carney,
Governor Carney, if Trump allows him to be governor, we're taking over.
Yeah, like he literally just as soon as like he's said it again recently, the Governor Carney stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, we're back to this again. It's like he's got 5 talking points, and if one thing goes wrong, he goes to the next one, and it's like a list in his head, which actually would make sense if he's got frontal temporal lobe.
Well, on a positive note, it seems like Panama is off the hook. I haven't heard him talk about conquering Panama in a while.
That's true.
Don't give him ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, we know he watches this podcast all the time.
Um,
you never know. He could have given the orders to Marco Rubio to do it. Who knows?
No, he's not gonna conquer Canada. Somebody or Panama rather. Canada's still on the list, but he's not going to conquer Panama because somebody explained to him, Mr. President, you do realize it's full of brown people. What? No, we don't want them.
It's true. He's really, as he's continuing his downhill version of frontotemporal lobe dementia, which is what a lot of people suspect he does actually have. You can see any filter going away, and I'm like, ugh, it's just the things he says are just, it's so deplorable. Like sometimes I can't even. I have to just delete people off my social media because I'm like, I can't even see this anymore. It's too much. And I genuinely I'm not concerned for Canada. Here, you know what the ironic thing about all of this talk was? Canada's had more people sign up for military service in the last year or two than I think we've had since forever and ever.
Well, you increased your defense budget. I would hope you got more people.
Oh yeah.
Then.
Well, but increasing your defense budget doesn't really mean anything if you can't actually recruit people into service. And we haven't been doing that for quite some time, not in significant numbers anyways.
Well, they're paying a lot more now, right?
I don't know, actually. I should look that up.
Yeah, I thought I read that they were paying more. That's why they're getting more to join.
And Rock, the president saying Cuba is next is like everything else that man says. I'll believe it when I see it. He just likes to spew things. He literally he is the epitome of taking spaghetti and throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks.
And what he's already done to Cuba is absolutely deplorable. Absolutely deplorable.
Look, at this late stage, at this late date, believing anything that comes out of his mouth, shame on you, first off. Secondly, he doesn't even know what he's saying anymore. I mean, he literally doesn't know what he's saying. He babbles on incoherently, then he talks about the drapes, and he talks about his ballroom, and he wears a baseball cap when the coffins are lowered from the plane. I mean, he's not mentally competent. He's just not.
Yeah.
And we keep dancing around that. Nobody wants to address the elephant in the room. We have a president who is not mentally competent. He's just not.
I mean,
and no, I'm not a doctor, but it's pretty obvious. Everybody has had members of their family who are not mentally competent, and this guy isn't.
To be fair, this is the same Congress and country that has willingly ignored how many members of Congress who, I mean, there was one that was in in the hospital or in some sort of nursing home basically for
the one from Texas
for 6 months before
nobody knew it. She must have been a very effective congresswoman. She was gone for 6 months and nobody knew it.
Democrats lost 3 people shortly after them getting voted into office. We've got Mitch McConnell, who's the epitome of the walking not living.
Look, here's a life hack for the American people. Stop electing 80-year-olds, okay? As a matter of fact, stop electing 70-year-olds too, because then they become 80. Just stop it.
Mm-hmm.
We'd all be doing ourselves a favor if we had age limits for Senate, for Supreme Court, for President, for Congress. Age limits. Air traffic controllers have to quit at age 56. Why? Because that's a very important job. Well, I tend to think being president of the United States is an important job too.
Or senator or congressman.
Or a senator or a representative or a Supreme Court justice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody loves Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She hung on too long. It was ridiculous what she did. So it's not a Democrat-Republican thing. It's across the board.
Wait, can you say that again, Scott? I'm sorry. I had to go chase chickens.
I'm talking about RPG. Okay, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG. She was not competent to sit on the Supreme Court at the very end. She was unaliving from pancreatic cancer. She shouldn't have been where she was at. She should have quit years before. Not to mention, she gave Trump a free Supreme Court pick. She could have. She knew she was ill. She knew that she had a terminal illness when Obama was still president, and she should have given Obama the pick. A lot of our problems would have been avoided that way. But this is where we're at. So that's why you need age limits.
And I would say I have to say I agree, especially because you have to put yourself aside and think about what's best. And it's like, and I say that, and I have to say this just to say, we know. I got to be careful how I say this. We know that Obama should have had that seat, and we know that he should have done it, because it's amazing how with 10 months and a year left, they didn't feel it was fair in an election year to do that they just had to wait. And then, damn, didn't they push 3 through in quite a short period of time?
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother issue. That wasn't the RPG seat. She quit, or she passed away under President Trump, and he got an extra pick out of that. There was no way she was going to live out through. She almost made it, but no way she was going to live through the entire Trump administration with the prognosis that she had. And it's a shame. She's a wonderful person, but I'm sorry, you have to put the country first.
And we in Canada actually have legislation that our Supreme Court justices are mandatorily required to retire at 75. It's not an option. It's called the Supreme Court Act. Yeah.
I wish we had the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'd make the bar 70 for every office.
Well, I think it's 70 for judges that are in provincial jurisdictions here in Canada. So any of the federal court judges in the provinces and stuff, it's 70, but the Supreme Court is 75. That's at least how ours is currently structured. Now, whether amendments and changes will happen, who knows? It so far has not been an issue in Canada, but then again, how we pick Supreme Court judges is extremely different. Perhaps maybe looking at that as a model. I'm not saying ours is perfect, but it's something to consider changes in the future. Wouldn't be a terrible thing, because
look,
that alone would be enough.
To show you this isn't partisan, Joe Biden was too old to run for re-election too.
Mm-hmm.
He was too
Agreed.
old.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not. I'm not stating anything that's partisan. I think it was Laura in chat brought up Dianne Feinstein. That was ridiculous. She didn't know where she was at the end, and she's sitting as a United States Senator from California and the head of the Judiciary Committee. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? She didn't even know where she was at. At some point, and it's not ageist to say that. And it's certainly not ageist coming from me. My next birthday will be my 70th. And I don't think I would be qualified to be a United States Senator or a Supreme Court Justice, nor would I want to be, because I know what the future holds as you get older. That's reality.
Yep. And that's why I said that's the mandatory retirement age. I doubt most justices stay till 75, but I agree. It's the reason why in Canada, our retirement age for CPP is 65. That was generally the accepted retirement age, was 65. And I'm like, I understand that we live a lot longer now, and we do need to look at extending it to the age of 70 for people who choose to work that long. Again, I'm going to say choose to, because I don't think anybody should be forced. But at some point, yeah, you have to start realizing that cognitive decline will happen whether or not you have, like the president, frontal temporal lobe dementia, or like just natural age, because that is just how our bodies eventually start wearing down.
Now, that being said, especially in the United States, we need to make sure we have a way to make it possible for people that are basically forced to retire to be able to keep surviving after we're forcing them to retire. Absolutely. Because to go from being a judge to having to work at a grocery store because that's the only place that will hire someone at that age would kind of suck.
Mike, have you seen the pensions that they get? Don't worry, they're fine.
I was going to say the same thing.
They get an awful lot of perks, lifelong health insurance. They get a lot of perks, and they get a very large pension. So they're fine. We don't have to worry about that. And besides, by the time you're on the Supreme Court, for most of these justices, not all, but for most of them, they have an awful lot of money anyway. And, you know, folks, look, this is common sense. Look at the last two presidencies and ask yourself if you think that they are mentally capable of doing the job. One Democrat, one Republican. So I'm not picking on anyone. Just ask yourself if you think that they were competent to serve their second term. Either one of them. And the answer, I think, is clear.
I honestly believe we need to make sure that there's retirement planning in place for all people, not just people who happen to be in positions of judge or in Canada, MP, MLA, people who get significant retirement packages that are paid for taxpayer funded till the end of their existence on this planet. Like it, we need to make sure that everybody has the ability to have that as an option, that they can take time to retire at the age of 65. This used to be a goal at some point in the last 100 years, and I have no idea what happened. Actually, I do, but that's a whole nother talk for another day. But it's time to move back towards that. Perhaps in doing so, we can create a whole different world where people feel comfortable enough to, like, I don't know, have a moment or a break. Like, I don't understand why we've moved away from social programs. And well, okay, I do, but
Carla in chat brings up the issue of term limits, age and term limits, Carla said. And Carla, term limits obviously is a separate issue. I have very, very, very reluctantly come to believe that we do need term limits here, not because of an age issue with that, but because the American people just keep electing over 90% of the people who are running. Yeah. That term limits basically, I mean, let's really put this in a nutshell. Incumbents have such an inherent advantage that term limits are really protecting us from ourselves, meaning the voters, because we just keep voting them back in. And, we do have term limits. They're called elections, but let's face reality here. Anytime you're reelecting 90% of the incumbents who are running, it's not really a fair match. So I've come to agree with your point of view, Carla. Took me a long time, but I do agree now with term limits. I think that its time has come.
It's the same way for me. When we first started all of this stuff, my big thing was saying is to get more people to vote. And I think we're at this point now where it has just become clear that I think the only way that we're going to fix the way we do things in society is we almost have to, we need to use laws to do it. We need to make it so people, there are term limits. We need to make it so voting is a requirement. Now, again, I know we've had this discussion. There needs to be other things that go into place before we can make that a reality. But I don't think we are going to be able to, just by the very nature of our talking, as long as politics keep going the way they're going, we are not going to get people to decide to start voting. We need to fix that problem if we actually want to fix things as a whole.
I'll tell you, no more than 2 years ago, I would have vehemently disagreed with you. And now, much like you, we've seen what's happened in the country. And I think, maybe the Australia model is something that we should emulate with voting. I think we need there's a lot of things that we would have to do that would require changing the Constitution, and that's going to be very difficult. We can get into the whole constitutional convention issue, at another time. We've covered that before. But there's so many things that we could do, like ranked choice voting, term limits, age limits, that can be effectuated without changing the Constitution. So that should be looked into. And mandatory voting is God, I just hate the phrase in a democracy to say mandatory voting. Well, Jesus Christ, when you have 20% of the population showing 15% of the population showing up for a primary, maybe it is time for mandatory voting.
Yep.
Again, the voters decide that. Well, the voters aren't doing a very good friggin' job, are they? So maybe we're going to have to set some rules. If you want to have a democracy, you're going to be forced to participate. If you want the benefits of a democracy, you're going to be forced to participate or pay a fine. I'm not talking jail time or anything that crazy, but do it like Australia does it. Do term limits. Do ranked choice voting. These are things that can be done today that would make a participatory democracy so much more effectual. And I reluctantly have come to agree with all of those solutions.
What's hilarious is you look at the way they do voting in Australia. It is it's like they have like cookouts at the voting places. Like it's not like everyone is like it's just a thing that they do. I think forced voting would also be dangerous. If we just put a law that said everyone must vote or else you get fined right now, no, there would need to be other things that happened as a part of it.
Like voting by phone, so that way people who it's hard for them to get out and vote can still have access.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kia. There's ways. The forced voting issue, and I even hate that phrase, forced voting. Let's say strongly encouraged voting, or a penalty if you don't vote, however you want to word it. That's something that we have to address carefully. Sure. I also worry about the dangers of that in a democracy, because a voter theoretically should have the right not to vote. But when you weigh the pluses and minuses and the damage that is obviously being done to our participatory democracy right now, I think we have to look at hard things like forced voting. I think we have to look at hard things like term limits. I think we definitely have to look at age limits. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I think here's the thing about forced or mandatory voting. Look, we're all part of a society. We're all part of a country. And there are certain things that should, I mean, you can, people often go in and vote for one thing and don't vote for all of them and walk away. There's a lot of ways that we could probably make it possible. But here's the thing. We are part of a society, and part of a society is there are things that we are required to do to be a part of society. 100%. We sit here and we talk about the rights to not do things as much as to do things. And I think with a lot, if not most of society, I think that's an acceptable way of looking at a lot of things. Voting, I do not believe is one of them, because again, voting is about deciding what kind of a society we want.
Because I think with the no vote option, that kind of takes away, what Scott was saying, that he doesn't like the option that in a democracy people have the choice not to vote. I think it could definitely be like an all-around solution, because then if everybody is supposed to be voting, and even if you do a no vote, everybody's vote's accounted for, and then it's going to be it'll be a whole hell of a lot harder with all this quote unquote voter fraud if everybody's accounted for and all of that good jazz. But if you give them an option of a no vote, then I think that takes away that, unfortunately making people do it if they don't want to.
Yeah, that's sort of akin to what they have in the parliamentary system, a vote of no confidence.
Rock, they're
Yeah,
ignoring
very
laws.
similar.
Ignoring laws doesn't mean anything with democracy. Democracy has to do with how laws are made, not having to do with whether laws are being ignored or not. Any form of government, any form of anything can ignore laws. Those are two separate things.
You know, looking at this in a macro sense, we spend way too much time talking about our rights that are given to us under our democratic system of government, but we don't like to talk about what our responsibilities are. And I do think that we need to spend more time in effectuating people taking responsibility for their own democracy. That's why some of these changes we're talking about, I very reluctantly have come to support, because what we're doing now with the type of turnout that we're getting, can we even call it a democracy? I mean, when you have 15% of the people choosing the candidates in an election, just how friggin' democratic is that really? You know, we're failing at that. So we've got to look at some outside the box solutions here to get people doing that. And does that mean somewhat infringing upon their rights to do nothing? Yeah, I guess it does. And I'm willing to take that.
You know, I would even say too, that by allowing people to vote that way, I think the other aspect of it that we need to do is we need to incorporate that into education systems to get people from little kids on knowing what is the voting system, what is it about, how important it is. I think that's the other part we have to add into it. Civics can't just be a one semester or 1 year thing while in high school. And I think just saving it for college is just, I think that's just a blatant miss on our part, because not everybody's going to go to college. But I think the education aspect has to be tied to it as well.
Well, it certainly used to be, Kia, when I went to school, but that was 50 years ago. In some cases, 60 years ago. But that was drummed into us not just in college or even in high school. That was drummed into us in grammar school. And Vonda, as to your point about gerrymandering, the Supreme Court had their chance to do it, and they didn't.
Yep. Kelly, I mean, that's what a runoff is technically does in a lot of places. My biggest issue is, unless we have to make it so states do open primaries, or we get rid of electoral colleges and like having to be registered with anything, with anybody, I think that wouldn't work. And again, 50% still isn't 100%. Like, that's the thing. Again, if we want it, if part of being part of a society is us, we're not living this day by day. No, you're good. You're good, Kelly. This is why we do this. This is the whole point of these conversations. Not everyone is living this day by day to day and thinking about it like some of us are all the time. Again, if we believe that part of being in society is deciding which direction, like what we want society to look like, then I think we have every right to say that voting is a requirement. That's, again, obviously that's me, but we're talking about primaries. We're not talking about presidential elections.
Yeah, we're talking about primaries, and by the way, we've hit 65% once.
And we had this conversation yesterday. I know not everyone was here. Guys, we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. I know we're talking about very emotional things, but please, we are all on the same team.
And by the way, the turnout in presidential elections is usually between 60 and 65%, and that's only the modern turnout, the Trump era. It's a few points less than that before that. In midterms, the turnout is anywhere between 40 5 and 50% turnout. And primaries is atrocious. That's about 15%, and about 20 to 25% will show up in a special election. Folks, that's the worst of any major industrial democracy. That's the worst. They get much higher turnout in Germany. They get much higher turnout in France, much higher turnout in Italy, Great Britain, Japan, Australia. And Australia, it's forced, so we'll leave Australia out. South Korea. We have the worst numbers of any major democracy on earth. We take so much for granted. We scream about our rights, and we have a right to. We should be screaming about our rights, especially now. We should be screaming about our rights. But all too often, we don't talk about our responsibilities of living in a participatory democracy.
I have a quick question because I don't know how this works in the States and if it's different. Like here in Canada, if you file taxes, like when you're 17 or 18, all you have to do is there's two little check boxes you have to check off that allow your information to be passed along to Elections Canada. And in doing so, you've registered to vote. Is it that simple in the States? And if it's not, why? Because literally almost everybody files their taxes at the age of 17 or 18, even if they're in university, you still end up filing them for something. So do you guys have that option?
It's totally different here, and most people here, most 16 and 17-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds are not filing taxes in the States. Most of them are still claimed by their parents. And then each state, every state is different. But like here to register to like vote, you have to have your birth certificate, your social security card. You have to have all these things just to prove who you say you are. You prove you're a citizen. That's why like this whole nonsense of trying to do more. Like when we register to vote, we have to prove who we are.
Yeah, Tiffany, in the United States, we handle our elections on a state-by-state basis. That's per our Constitution.
Interesting. Because yeah, like obviously here in Canada, you still have to prove who you are. Like that's like you still have to prove via driver's license, birth certificate, and stuff like that. You have to use all of that to prove when you actually go register too. I have to bring my voter card and my ID to prove that I am who I am. So it's not like anybody can just register via taxes. Usually here kids are still you still have to your parents can still technically claim you. Taxes are different here though, but even then you still if you've made any income, there's at all that can include scholarships for school, all of that has to still be run through taxes. Maybe that's why ours is set up slightly different, but yet maybe that's something to consider as an alternative at some point, to add those checky boxes on a tax return, even for the parents to
There's an even
authorize it.
simpler thing. Everybody, when they're born, gets a social security number.
Yep.
When you hit 18, you're automatically registered to vote. You don't have to do anything else.
You guys don't get social security numbers when...
No, we do. We're just not automatically registered to vote.
Yes, we have a social security number when we're born. That would be a great way to automatically register them, because the Social Security Administration knows when you're 18 years old, you're registered. That's it.
Yeah. They can even mail out a card or something. They have access to something. But then again, SIN cards work differently than Social Security cards. Like when both of my children were born, we just had to fill out a form while I was still in the hospital, and by the time we got here, they'd already mailed out the social or my kids' SIN numbers. That's not a normal process in the US. Like I'm asking these questions because it's interesting to find out for me the differences in how other countries do things.
No, we do it state by state, as I said before. That's how we do it.
Yeah. And also the other problem that we have is that a lot of states and the parties in general don't really want everyone to vote, no matter what they say out in public. They really don't. They want to keep it. They want the people that support them the most to be the ones that get out and vote.
Linda asked in chat, isn't applying for the draft automatic now? I don't believe so, Linda. We haven't had a draft in this country since the Vietnam War.
They signed something, I forget if it was last year or this year, that
just to keep it with selective service.
That made signing up for the selective service automatic, so they don't have to.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know about that. All right. Yeah, but either way, we don't have a draft in this country, and in order for us to have a draft, contrary to some comments, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that would be up to Congress if we were going to have a draft for the military. The president can't just say we're having a draft. Okay, Linda, gotcha.
He won't leave it to Congress. He doesn't have a choice. There is no capability for him to enact a draft via anything other than Congress, because it is a law. The president is doing everything without Congress. No, he is trying to do everything he is doing via laws that are already in place. He is just reinterpreting them in such a way that makes it possible, and most of them aren't going on. He is doing what many presidents have done, Wild Pond, up to this point, which is go and start things, and then it only lasts for a certain number of days. He is doing, this is not new. He cannot force draft through Congress because there's still the filibuster.
At any rate, the talking about a president going to war, in the cases of, it's true that we haven't had a declaration of war since the Second World War. However, in the instance of Korea, the president got permission from Congress and from the United Nations. In the instance of Vietnam, the president went to Congress and got the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. In the instance of the first Persian Gulf War under George H.W. Bush, the president got authorization from Congress and from the United Nations. In the issue of Iraq and Afghanistan, President Bush got authorization from Congress. In this instance, no. The president has not gone before Congress, and shame on Congress for abdicating completely their Article 1 powers in this area. Shame on them.
Absolutely.
I mean, this isn't about supporting the president. This isn't about supporting the troops. You know, everybody supports the troops. That's a bipartisan thing. We all support the troops. This is an issue of whether maybe you don't want to vote on whether or not we should be involved in Iran right now. That doesn't matter whether you like it or not. The Constitution gives you that responsibility. It isn't a choice. It's a responsibility. And they are abdicating their responsibilities under Article 1. It isn't whether they want to do it or not. They're told that's their job.
You guys shouldn't be fighting for this guy. Who are we fighting for?
If you mean the orange Cheeto, I promise you there's nothing you will get me to fight for that guy ever. Like, ever. Nothing. I think it's an atrocity what Congress is doing right now by choosing to not actually do their job. And I, as a Canadian, don't even know what most of their job is, but I know they're not doing it. The whole thing is just like, maybe there needs to be legislation in place to recall Congress people if they're not doing their job. Is that even a thing, Scott? Sorry, I don't even know if that's a thing, but if it's not, well, saying I'm lucky that I live in Canada, yes, that is true. bear in mind, we have our own version of the GOP going on up here. We have our own version of the same Maple MAGA up here. So, which Canadians are all actively, at least all of us with 2 brain cells that synapse, are trying our best to make sure do not ever get a sniff or a whiff of authority and power, because if you've ever looked at the province of Alberta, this is what happens when you do let them. They will literally go through and cut and ruin everything. Like at this point, our provincial government the federal government gave AISH, which is the disability benefit here in Canada, gave AISH all the people in Canada who qualified for AISH, gave them a $200 bump this year for cost of living increase. Makes sense, right? All of us, I think all of us reasonable people can agree. It's a good thing. We should be giving people on disability more money so that it's easier for them to survive, because we know they're not really getting a livable amount of money anyways. In good old UCP Maple MAGA fashion, they clawed back that $200 out of the provincial portion that AISH benefit people get. And so the Alberta government basically stole that $200 the feds were going to give all of the people on disability and kept it for our own coffers to spend on, I don't know, Turkish Tylenol or some other new carpets for the premier's office. I don't know. The amount of stupid stuff is ridiculous. But being privileged to live in Canada, yes, well, it is a privilege, and it seems like that at the moment. Promise, we are still fighting the same fight you guys were fighting 10 years ago. We're just doing it now. So, and we're trying very hard. The only positive to Trump doing all of his stuff is it's making it a little easier for us to fight it, because we get to see what the future could look like. But I'm disgusted that Congress is basically decided to shaft the American people by doing nothing. It's disgusting. And I think every one of them should be recalled. Scott, do you guys have recall legislation there? I don't know, so I'm asking.
Certain states do, yes, but it's not a federal thing.
Perhaps it should be at some point.
Well, the Constitution gives us a remedy. It's called impeachment and conviction. And that's the only remedy that we have.
But that would mean that Congress would have to actually, I don't know, do that, right?
Well, yeah. Congress has the sole authority to. The House would impeach, and then there would be a trial in the Senate, and the Senate would need 67 votes to convict. That's the way it works, Tiffany.
So there's really no recourse if Congress decides to just, I don't know, not do their job?
No, there's no recourse if Congress. Well, yes, there's the 25th Amendment, but then you would need the cabinet to declare the president incapable of carrying out his duties. And take a look at this cabinet. Do you think they're going to? Do you think they are going to declare this president incapable of doing his duties?
No.
It could be it could be literally Weekend at Bernie's, and they would let it go on.
100%. 100%. Oh my God! So is it conceivable? Since we have a lawyer here, is it conceivable that they could create federal legislation that Congress people can be recalled if their voters feel they aren't doing their job?
Dude, first, Congress isn't doing anything. Let's be fair. Literally, Congress is doing nothing. So saying anyone likes what Congress is doing isn't paying attention to what's going on, because Congress is literally doing nothing. And everyone who is a representative of their district is supposed to represent their entire district, not just the people who voted them in. The problem is that the people in Congress aren't representing their districts or their states at all in most cases. All they are doing is representing what the president wants.
They also aren't representing their institution, and that's the biggest crime. The Constitution gives them certain rights, but also certain responsibilities, and they have abdicated those. So they're not only not representing their constituents, they aren't representing their institution, which plays a vital role in our separation of powers.
It's not a perspective, it's a reality. It's not a perspective. If they're responsible for certain things and they aren't doing it, they aren't fulfilling their duty. It's not a perspective thing. If there are people that are getting hurt in their districts by the choices they're making and they won't even talk to them because they aren't Republicans, they aren't doing their duty as representatives of their entire district. That's not a perspective. That's a reality. I don't care whether you like it. That's not their job. Their job as representatives is to represent. It's already 12:01, so I'm going to be getting off in just a second. I want to say something. And this came up yesterday and it happened again today. And I'm not sure how to get past this problem. We are going to, as a community, be angry and upset and about what's going on in this country. We as a community need to figure out how to not jump down the throats of people that are on the same team. And again, I understand that we we are scared and angry and frustrated and everything else. Trust me, I'm the exact same. No, you couldn't, dude. I am the same way. But we are not allowing real conversation to happen. We are pushing people away. Goodbye, dude. I was willing to talk until you added that bullshit. Goodbye. It's very easy to assume the worst. And I understand why we assume the worst sometimes. But there are people that are coming in here that don't live this. That they like coming here because this is supposed to be a safe place to ask questions when they don't know. And there are people that don't feel safe doing that. And maybe that's my fault for not being clear on it. I don't know. But when people I know that care, that have the same fundamentals we have, that just don't, that are going through the process of trying to learn and understand in the same way that we all had to go through it too, are saying that it's not Vonda, it's not just you. This is something that has been bubbling up for a while. And it's just to a point where it needs to be talked about. It is important that we call out BS when it happens. It's important that we confront the racism and sexism and misogyny and fascism and all the stuff that comes in here. Those are important things too. We just need to be, my statement is, as much as we need to be careful, we also need to not assume the worst. And it's really easy to assume the worst. especially when there's so much bad going on. So I do not blame anybody for being angry or upset or nervous or being jumpy. We all have seen the kind of trolls that we get in this live. I've done it myself, where I have assumed a statement someone was making based on, you know, what a day was like. The stuff we're talking about is not easy. It's uncomfortable. And none of us have the answers. I think that's the other thing that we need to remind ourselves. We do not all have the answers. When we're sitting here talking about what we want, what we think we should do in the future, there is no guarantee that anything we're talking about is the right option or is the best option. People not liking the idea of forcing people to vote, those are valid concerns. 100% valid, no matter how much any of us believe that would be the best option. And we need to remember that when we're having these conversations. Because again, a lot of us here that are regulars are living this. We say we want to make a better world. Part of a better world, grow up. Grow up, Ricky. Get the fuck out of my channel. See, those are the kind of things that are obvious. So, and I don't know what that's going to mean, what I need to do to help make sure we get there, other than keep asking all of you to understand that we're not going to agree on everything. We're not going to all agree on where we go. But the people that are here, the people that come regularly, we have the same fundamentals. And those are the things that we need, sometimes we'll need to fall back on when we interact with each other. And when we're typing, we're not getting nuance, we're not getting tone, we're not getting anything. And sometimes we get in this idea that just because someone disagrees with me, that means they are a bad person. I know, and I know. And we are all a little jumpy. You aren't the only one that has done that. I have done that. It's just gotten to a point where I've needed to talk about it. So I know you're feeling that you're feeling it right now, but know that you aren't the only one that has done this. All of us have done this to some extent. This is what being part of a community means. If we are truly consider ourselves part of a family, then sometimes being part of a family means we make mistakes and we learn from them. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the gifts, the super chats. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone that came up and talked. Scott, Tiffany, Kia. I love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll just do our best, just like we do every single time we're here. Again, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. Some days it's like I would just want to snap my fingers and be like, everyone just be just a day where it's not doesn't feel like the end of the world. So I hear you. We'll all do better. Let's, you know, I don't want to have to make any changes. And I don't think we have to at this point. I think we need to get back to remembering why we're here and what the overall goal is. And we're going to take it one day at a time. And if it feels like that needs to change, then I'll make changes. I don't know what that'll look like, but let's start here and go from there. All right. You guys are amazing just the way you are. And I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile. Do something that makes you happy. Bye, guys. Goodbye, you too.